Have you guys faced any particular challenges that you would like us to discuss? Is there any particular thing, any serious matter you would like to discuss based on this experience? Be it the timing of the whole schedule, the rhythm in which the courses were delivered, and if possible, the content quality and so on. So aside the equipment quality, of course, so any other thing related to the delivery quality, let me know if you have something to say about that. And then after that, if you have particular questions and you would like me to explain something a bit better for you to be able to grab it, I'm ready to hear that. So even if the question doesn't come now, anytime during this live you bring the question, I think we'll still go through it. So for now, I'll do as if we are waiting for the questions and try to move on. So to summarize the whole thing, so far we've gone through 2 weeks. So we've had 2 weeks. So let me shift to the browser. So 2 weeks in it, that means we've already covered HTML, a lot in HTML, and then a lot in CSS. It is very important we have this path that you grab a bit of HTML. So because so far you could notice that CSS is more about manipulating HTML. So everything you did with CSS was more of applying something to the HTML tags. So we could say that CSS actually affects or manipulates HTML. So the same thing goes with the next week, which is the third week starting tomorrow. It means that JavaScript actually manipulates not only HTML but it also manipulates CSS. So that's why it is very important that we get an understanding of these two things before we move on to JavaScript. And JavaScript also being a programming language, it means there is a lot of logic and thinking and reasoning that is involved. So far we've been just doing design, layouts, views, presentations, respecting the rules of the HTML protocols and so on. But here we are going to think, we are going to reason, we are going to analyze, we are going to plan, we are going to have like this is where we really start the software development, or in code, the web development. And like we said, web development is just software development on the web, right? So we are going to start the actual software development from tomorrow through the advanced CSS layout, because I'm there with assignment. Thank you. All right. So the CSS layout. All right. Okay, when it comes to laying out your website, we say it this way: laying out a website or designing the website. So the first thing is the intention you have. What are you planning to lay out? What design do you intend to have? So let me go to the blackboard, right? So if we look at this design here, for example, if that's the layout you decided to go for, so you can now look at the possible tools we have at hand to achieve that. What are the possible tools you have? You really have to be conscious of it. The first one is, okay, I can think about positioning the elements. I can think about their positioning. So relative, absolute, fixed, and so on. How can I combine all these positions with the weight and margins and so on to be able to achieve this? That's the first thing you might look at. Second, while you are doing that, you might meet a lot of challenges, which we have been doing for so long. And then you now realize, okay, I could probably go with a flex box. So the flex element allows me to set a container for a set of children, and then inside this flex container, I can now decide to lay out my site the way I wish by adjusting the flex directions, alignments, item alignment, and so on. You can now be able to define how the site will look like according to your design, of course. That's why I'm saying it depends on really what you are trying to lay out. It depends on what you are trying to lay out. So, but what I want you to know is that you should always be able to recall what tools are used to do it. Now, how each one of the tools are used, whoa, we have a lot of content set out there, and I'll probably have some special videos on this. So probably we take Flexbox and then we lay out a lot of things with only Flexbox. Then we do the same thing using grid. So that's another tool you can think about, the CSS grid. So are you going with grid, Flexbox, or you go with the positioning? So some of these things can be used to help you, right? Some of these things can help you to achieve the the laying out of your website. So for now, I guess that's what I have to say, right? So if that answers your question, let me know. Otherwise, let me know what exactly I should do. If we have to code a bit, no problem, we'll try it for you. So like I was saying, so next week, which is starting from tomorrow, we are going to tackle JavaScript. And I would like you to really try your best to go through everything we did in the first 2 weeks, right? Go through everything we did. Even if you couldn't do all the assignments or end of week projects, and at least try to go through each one of these, and then the small examples I gave throughout the videos and the text, the written copies of the lessons, try to go through it. The most important thing is for you to realize what HTML is used for, right? What is it for? What are the things, some of the few things you can think about? So one, okay, I can write basic HTML document, I can lay out a basic HTML document, and I can structure a document based on whatever content I'm having, or based on the desire I want to achieve with search engine optimization, and all this. Then you put all this together to kind of fulfill one desire, HTML side. So if you understand this basic principle, I think that's quite a lot already. And now if you are able to come up with your own code, so you have this this little idea of what to do, and then you are able to sit down, start your code from the beginning to the end. It doesn't matter the beauty of the code. Sorry, it doesn't matter the beauty of the code or how sophisticated it is today. Not necessary. The most important thing is you are having that capability. The fear of the code is gone. So that is the most important thing so far. So once you have that, you have also been able to understand the week 2 CSS, what CSS is used for, how important it is. You've seen the limitations of HTML. It can't help you in designing anything beautiful. You just have flat documents. So you realize finally that, oh, you have a CSS that can help you in making it beautiful. Now, how do I make it happen? I can use CSS as an inline stuff. I can inline CSS with my HTML tags. I can embed it in a reserved area in the head. I can also decide to externalize my CSS so that I link it later on with my HTML document. If you understand these principles too with CSS, and now how to write the various CSS rules, you are good to go. Even if so far you don't have many of the CSS rules in mind, you wish to achieve this, you wish to achieve that, but you are not getting the actual rules to write it. But that is key, because it's this question now: what can I use to do this? What can I use to do this? That will prompt you or force you to go and research for the solutions. There are so many resources out there. There are so many resources out there. So there is always what you need to what you need for you to find it. So that's what I can say so far at this point. So once you have covered these 2 weeks and you are okay with that, trust me, you are going to feel comfortable with the JavaScript. Because if you decide to create, let's say, a slide, definitely the slide is going to contain HTML code that will structure the slide, bring in the images of the slide. Then we are going to use CSS to style the slide to make it look the way we want, and then we can now use JavaScript to animate it. So you see, obviously, All these things we saw throughout these past 2 weeks are going to be very useful for the upcoming weeks. So that is a bit of what we have seen so far and what we are heading towards to. So I'm listening. If there are any questions around, I will take them. So far, so if there's no question, we can move on to the topic of the day, which is some of the things we did not see that are very important, what we call responsive web design. Responsive web design. I think we wouldn't do this whole program without me mentioning this point. It is very important. And responsive web design is a principle in which we care about how our websites will build appear on various screen sizes. That's the key in responsive web design. So assuming this is a tablet, this is a phone, and this is a desktop, and probably somebody using a large screen. So that's the principle. So how do we get this website, for example, to fit in here? So for example, for the tablets, we could still have, let's say in this case, the header, the navigation. Let me change the color here. So we can still have the navigation on top because the tablet might have enough space to contain this, and then have the main content cover this, and then get the sidebar, which is this area here, to come at the bottom of this, and then later on we can have the footer to cover this area. So, and then on mobile devices we get the same thing. So we can see it will power. So maybe you can get the navigation here, which is this side, and then after the navigation we can have the main content area and the footer at the bottom. So on larger devices we can keep the site as we have it. So we have the navigation up and the header and the navigation here, and then the main content here. So we can keep the same design. So that's what responsive web design is all about. So, and how do we achieve responsive designs? So let me show you a little bit. So if you go back to Chrome, then we open one of these projects we have. Let's say that's project. So this project 10, right? This project 10, assignment 10. So if I decide to change the display of this website, so let's say I take it to a mobile device, so you can see what happens. You can see what happens. So how do we make it look like what I was just saying in the drawing right now? So how can I make such website right now to look like this on a small device or on a tablet? And by the way, you have this inspector on your browser. So once you have the website open, you do right click on any empty space, you do inspect, and then you can choose the device. So you have this button here, so which shows a laptop and a mobile phone. So you click on it. Now you can change the dimensions you want based on the devices you want to see how the website will appear on these devices. You have the resolution here, so that's 100%. So in our case, we can see that on iPhone 14 Pro Max, the navigation looks okay. It's not that bad, but the sidebar and then the article side here are not that great. So what can we do? How can we achieve that? So in this question too, there are many ways of doing it, right? There are many ways of doing it. The first way, which is what we call intrinsic way, is for you to use the grid properties and then manipulate it. Then you can also use the flex displays to manipulate it and make it like automatic. But the official way of using it, extrinsic way, is using what we call the media queries, and that's what I really want you to look at today particularly, because with the flex and the grid, it seems like it is natural. As far as you use them, at some point you wouldn't even need to do anything much. But at some point, you will have to work with media queries because they are very special and they are meant for this job. So let's look at it. Let's see how we can achieve such thing. How can we transform this website into a responsive one, particularly this area, the content area, on small devices. So if I change on other devices, you can see the same problem goes there, the same problem. So here, I wish this partners area can probably come on top or at the bottom. Anyway, they should stack one on top of each other on small devices, and then once we go on larger devices, they should come back in this side-by-side positioning. So let's look at it. We'll go to our code. So I'll take assignment 10, and here is the assignment. So you might not have this code, so I just did this yesterday. I don't know if you've seen the video already. If you haven't, please try to check it out. So we have where we are concerned with is this area, which is the main area that contains the aside with the partners, and then the article which contains the article. So at this point, we want this to stack up. So let's go and check the main element and how we style it. So this is the style. We said display should be grid, and the grid template columns should be one frame, one fraction for the aside, and then 3 fractions for the article side. So how do we use media query to make that happen? So it's simple. What you do is we use the @ sign, and then we bring the keyword media, just like we use the keyword keyframes for the animations. Just like we did keyframes for the animation, so we do the same thing for the media queries. So we say media, and we specify, and that's why media queries are very important. We specify if the media we are targeting is the screens or is the printing, and so are we targeting the printing? Like when somebody decides to print the page, are we going to arrange it in some way, or they are just viewing it on the screen? Are we going to make some arrangements? So in our case, we'll keep it screen because we are on the PCs. So we say we want to target the screens. We want it, this, whatever we are going to write here will have effect only when people are viewing our website on the screen. So we said it's the screen, and now we bring the condition in which this query will run. So we now bring the condition and say, okay, when the screen size is as this or at this, or the screen size is below this width or that width, or the screen size is above this and that, now do something. That's the query. That's what we call a media query. So we use the keyword media, we add the screen, or we write print if you want to deal with the printing, and then we add the AND condition, the condition in which this will happen. So in our case, what is the condition we should write? So if you look at our page again, so let me bring the page. So if we look at our page so far, if I check, I go to iPhone, so I can see that the width it starts is 375. So let me see iPad. So if you look at the iPad, the width starts at 820. So it means all the devices below 820, we'll assume they are small devices. So let's say iPad mini. So we'll take 768. So you can see it here. The thing I'm indicating is here. So the iPad mini is 768 width. So anything below 768 pixels, we'll assume it is a device, a small device. So that being said, we can go back to our code and now write the condition and say, so if max width of the device the user is using is 728, right? It is 768 pixels. So if the device the user is using, the width is more than, less than, so that's the max width. So if the max width is 768, definitely we've moved to iPad mini. but below that we are dealing with small devices. So what will happen once this condition is satisfied? What are we going to do? We are going to bring this element. We want to attack this main element and do something to it. So we'll bring it inside. So you see, we bring the element inside. We now say the display will stay a grid. So this one we don't even need to indicate because it is already indicated here. The only thing we want to modify is what we are going to call here. So instead of us to say the first element, we are going to have two columns, first column, second column. We rather say we want one column. So it means all the elements will go one after the other. So by doing so and previewing, we should have our site stacked. So let me refresh. So now you can see. So it will make the elements stack. So now what happens if I change the devices to, let's say this one, we still have the same thing. This one will still have the same thing. You see, all the devices below iPad mini will have the same layout. So if I now go beyond iPad mini, so I'll go to iPad mini, you can see it still works because it's up to 768 inclusive. So iPad Air, it changes, it comes back because we are gone beyond the condition. And the same thing happens if I decide to go on desktop, it still displays perfectly. So that is what responsive web design is all about. And it can go as complex as you can imagine, very complex depending on how complex your website is, and can be very you might have to narrow a lot at some points. So let me give you an example. If you are using Lance course here as an example, so if I do inspect and then I go on small devices, so here iPad, let me start from, let's say, iPhone Pro. You can see how what the site becomes. See what the site becomes, and the menu has collapsed into this, and when you click on it, that's when the menu shows up. So this is how complex this could go. So if we go on the courses menu, for example, which you see on your desktop where on the live screen, you see it very well scattered, I would say. But once you check on the phone, it becomes a different thing. And some of you might have noticed that when you are reading the courses on your small device, on your phones, it's a different thing. So you see, and if I click on any chapter, you can see that the display will be different from that of the desktop displays. And you can see the menu now, the navigation, which is at the right side on small on larger screens, is now hanging up here. You see, it's now hanging up here. So this can be very complex. This can become very challenging as the website becomes complex, and you can now see on desktop that same navigation comes at the right side. So these are the things you need to be aware of when it comes to responsive web design. And then, like I mentioned, the technique we just use now is we are using the grid, and it's quite easy with using grid and flex and so. And then we also use the media query elements to bring it in. So these are the few techniques you could now make use of when that such situations occur. Now, it may happen that you have these websites that are not that big. So by default, the browser is actually responsive. It renders the content as responsive content. So the proof is if we go and try to check one of our projects, which is a basic one. So let me open, I think that's assignment 8. So if I open this one, which does not have much except just basic HTML code, if I now do inspect, you can see it definitely fits. It just fits. It will follow and fit. The only problem you might notice here is that the content size, which is the text size, might not be that great, right? The content size might not be that great, but it is also possible to use a media query, for example, and say, okay, once we are on small devices, the font size should change into this. So you can be doing this for every single thing, every single property possible on your website by using media queries. So we should probably have deeper classes on media queries, right, where we practice with complete projects. And the project of this week, which are already posted on the website, is more about media queries. So if you check it out, so this is it here, personal blog page with HTML and CSS. So try to go through it, and oh, that's a lot. So but I try to detail the various steps, every step very well, so that you can just follow the steps and achieve it. Because to me, it's also a way of telling you what and what to do, and teaching you what and what to use at any given point. So it's not about challenging you and letting you guess and imagine. No, it's more about just follow the steps and learn the steps to achieve this. So that's basically it. So if we don't have any questions so far, so I think we can round this up so that everybody prepares for tomorrow, because the course for tomorrow, the first course on JavaScript, is coming up, and I really urge you to take it seriously, right? Take it seriously, and it shouldn't be as difficult as you might think. And for those who already have some background in programming, this is going to look basic, and it's going to look very simple for you to grab. And for those who have never touched programming, yes, as usual, I will try to make it as basic as possible. My concern is for you to understand the whole ecosystem, to put all this together in your mind, to know what is what, and you are fine to go. So thank you. I really thank you for your time, for your effort, and I pray that you get increased in knowledge and health, and we get this program to the end. And I'm sure by the end you will not recognize yourself, except when you are among the web developers. That's when you can identify yourself as, I am also a web developer, right? So that's my pride, that's my success. So thank you so much. I'll end this live here, and we are open for any questions. And please help us share our videos to your various groups, your friends, and so on, and like them, comment. Please give us a like, a comment, right? You have questions, just ask and just question. And it's not expensive, actually. It is free to ask a question. It is free to also like the videos, and so it marvels me that we have like hundreds of people in groups, in our group, and then our videos don't get like even 10 likes. So anyway, I guess it's based on how you feel, and sometimes maybe we forget to do it. So if you did forget, you can go back and check the videos you watched already, or the videos you downloaded, for those who downloaded some of them. So like them too. Thank you so much, and see you in the lesson tomorrow, and good luck again with your JavaScript.